Hi, and welcome to Master a British Accent, the Pronunciation MBA, with me, Simon Brampton. In this video, we're going to learn how to pronounce dates, years, and times, including the 24-hour clock. This is a video you do not want to miss, because maybe you think that you know how to tell the time, say the dates, say the years, or even the centuries. But I have some surprises for you, because there is more than one way to say each of the times, the dates, and the years. Stay here and enjoy this video. What about time? Oh, look, I have an expensive Casio watch. So, what's the time? Well, you have three methods. Three ways to get it right, but don't mix them. The first one with this standard, original, traditional clock. Remember, a clock is normally on a wall and a watch is on your wrist. It's called the 12-hour clock, or 12-hour clock method. So this clock here says, okay, a clock speaks. So the clock says 10 past 2. If it's digital, we can also add AM, ante-meridium, before midday, and PM, post-meridium, after midday or noon. So if we look at this digital clock, we don't say 10 past 2, we say 2:10, and it says here, there's a little light I've just noticed, which tells you that it's PM, not AM, so that we use this to differentiate, because 2:10 could be in the morning or it could be in the afternoon. So we use AM and PM to distinguish this. So this is 2:10 PM. Now, the next one is called the 24-hour clock, or sometimes known as military time, especially in the United States of America and also in Britain. This system is not normally used. So again, we have a digital clock, but this time it is in the 24-hour clock method. So we know immediately that this is the afternoon, 14:10. So you say the numbers exactly as you see them. No complication there, but people do not use that orally in English-speaking countries. So this would be the equivalent of 2:10 PM. And what's the time here? Well, we have two clocks. One says 12:00, and the other one says 00:00, 12:00, and 00:00. How would we say this with our three methods? If it's analog, what would you say exactly in this case? Well, you would say it's 12 o'clock in the first example. And you have two options. You can say midnight or midday to distinguish the two. So I'll meet you at 12 o'clock. If it's not clear and you live your life at night, you can say, no, I'll meet you at 12 o'clock midnight, or I'll see you at 12 o'clock midday, or 12 o'clock noon is another option. It's like afternoon, but noon is 12 o'clock midday. Another typical confusion is to say, I will meet you o'clock, which I think people believe means exactly at that time. But in English, we say, I'll meet you at 12 o'clock on the dot. Okay? O'clock is just the time. It doesn't mean punctual. The next option is digital. So how would we say the first one in digital? Any ideas? It's incredible, but we would say 12 p.m. A lot of people think 12 p.m. is at night when it is actually at midday, because the number before this is 11:59 a.m. and then it changes to 12 p.m. post meridium. So it's in the afternoon. Therefore, would be 12 a.m. So it's ante meridium, before noon, and it's at night. So 12 a.m. is at night. Did you know that? And finally, the 24-hour clock. In the first example, we would say 1200 or 1200 hours. And for the second one, what would you say? It's called 2400 or 2400 hours. Yeah. Which one do you like the best? They are all correct, but the most typical one in Britain is the first one, the analog, and sometimes we use the digital, but not with 24-hour numbers. So we don't say, see you at 14:10. No, we say, see you at 2:10 p.m. or after lunch. And if you're interested in how you say all of these numbers here, then we have this chart, which you can look at, obviously, in your own time by pausing the video. And I'm very sorry, I forgot to mention sundial time. So if you see a sundial, again, you can use any of the methods you like to identify it. Here it's 2 p.m. And if you're military, you might say 1400. What I'm not sure, though, is how sundial works on flat Earth. So if you are a flat earther, I'm sorry, I can't help you at the moment. So let's go now to dates. Now, dates is a type of fruit found especially in a Mediterranean climate. But a date is also, as we know, the day where we are now or in the past. Here we have a very significant one. I'm sorry I've chosen this, but it is a very good example. How would you say this date? Yeah, not the date, not the fruit. This date here, how would you say this? This is an important date in the USA, and it's called 9/11. And in fact, in the United Kingdom, we also say 9/11. Do you remember 9/11? But there's a big difference between the way you say the dates in the USA and Great Britain. And it's very, very important to know the difference. Because if you see this written here, it can be ambiguous. In the USA, 9/11 is September 9 in American English, 2001. Because in British English, we would write 9/11 as 11/9. So it's the opposite. And the good news is that Britain is the same as other European countries. And it's America that's different. So let's have a look. In Great Britain, to say 9/11, we'd say the 11th of the 9th is one way of saying it. The 11th of September is another way of saying it, or September the 11th. The most typical way is September the 11th. I'll see you on September the 11th. On September the 11th, okay? On is the preposition. 2000, and we use in English 2001. If you're not sure about how to pronounce numbers, you can watch that specific video, which I have linked up here somewhere. So it's important to remember that the British and American dates are the opposite way round. So if you're writing to someone in an email, don't just put the numbers, write it as well, because if not, it's going to be very confusing. And in fact, if you use Zoom, it's American, and I get confused sometimes looking at it because the date is not the same as British English. So the years, because of my age, even though I look incredibly young, I waited my whole life to see the year 2000. So it was a big moment celebrating the new millennium. So the year 2000. So how would you pronounce this year, which is a long time ago? It would be 999. What about this one, which was just before the year 2000? Would you say 1999? How would you say it? It's 1999. So you say it in two parts. And this is the year 2000 or 2000. I was born in 2000. Remember, it's in for years. What about this date? Sometimes there is a confusion about how to pronounce it. Well, we can say 2009. Remember, it's 2009 in British English, 2009, or we could say 2009, because the dates that have an O at the beginning of the century are normally pronounced O. For some reason, we started to say 2009 instead of 2009. Right now, you could say 2009, 2003, 2001. It wouldn't be wrong. In fact, it would probably be more right than wrong, if you see what I mean. What about this one? Is that 2010 or is it 2010? So after 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, we always say the numbers like we have always said them in all of the years previously. It's 1850, 1990, 2025, and we use the preposition in. What about centuries? Let's have a look at specifically centuries in this. What happened in the year 1 AD? What century was 1 AD? And what is AD? Do you know that? We're going to discover right now. So the year 10, this is the year 1, or the year 10 is in the first century. 1850 is in the 19th century, and we are now in the 21st century. So what does AD mean, or BC? Any ideas? Let's discover. Well, 200, for example, BC would be 200 years before Christ, which is obviously a religious term. And strangely, we use AD, which is Anno Domini in Latin. So 200 AD is obviously after Christ. And it's strange. Typical English, we use one phrase in normal English and the other one in Latin. I mean, how do you explain that to anybody? Well, what's happened now is that we have a secular or non-religious way of talking about centuries. For example, we can say 200 BCE, which is now called before the Common Era. Era is a period of time, in case this looks like a different word. Era. And 200 CE is the Common Era, which is the era we are in now. So these are the preferred symbols and way of talking about the centuries right now, especially if you do not want to refer to the Christian terms. If you want to learn something, then it's a good idea to review, repeat, and test. So can you tell me what time this is in 3 methods? Look at the clock. Are you looking? We have the minute hand, which is the long one, and the hour hand. And then we have the second hand. So they're called hands. They're very thin hands, though. Not like I've got 2 hands. Look, this is my minute hand and my hour hand. Strange. We have the analog 12-hour, the digital, and the 24-hour clock. Any ideas? Try and remember now. Analog is digital, 24-hour. Let's have a look. So we'd say 20 past 4 in the afternoon, if we're not clear about that. If it's digital, we'd say it's 4:20 p.m. if we're not clear that it's a.m. or p.m. Or in 24-hour clock or military time, we'd say it's 16:20 if it's in the afternoon, obviously. So what's the date in British English? This one here. Do you know what day this is in Anglo-Saxon culture? Yes, it's New Year's Eve. How would you say this? Can you remember the 3 different methods? Right, remember it's the 31st of December or December the 31st. Those 2 are the normal ways of saying dates. Or if you're just reading it, you can say the 31st of the 12th. And we say 2024. And obviously, if you weren't sure if it was BCE or CE, what 2024? When? Oh, CE. the Common Era. And that's it. So we've just learned all about times, dates, years, and centuries here on Master a British Accent, your favorite British accent channel. And if you want to learn a little bit more about learning languages in general, then I can definitely recommend my book, How to Learn Language with the 7 Strategies that Successful Learners Use. There is also a Spanish version of that, which you can see probably behind me, as well as 2 other books, one in Spanish and one about how to raise a bilingual child if you're living in another country. And that's it for this video. Thank you for watching as usual. And if you want to master British accent, then I will see you in the next video. Bye for now and good luck. See you again soon. Bye bye.